just wanted to mention before we talk to Joyce, who's got a I love being Polish pin on, which I think is really nice. I wanted to mention one of your other partners in this, Carol, who's in the audience.
Carol McCarthy is sitting over there.
Who declined to come on camera, but she's very much a part of this
She definitely
show,
is.
and she's been a big help to you
And
in
she's
this
written
project.
several articles for
I've
our
read them.
newsletter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's got more in her hip pocket probably, so.
So we haven't forgotten about you, Carol, even though you declined to be on screen. Thank you. So Joyce, you are next.
Okay, thank you. First of all, this particular quote from a Leon Potocki, all the way back in 1854, kind of zeroed in on traditions, which surprised me. It's a little difficult, but let me read it to you. What has become a habit, let it remain a habit. And this, what will be heard from our fathers, or what we have seen already by ourselves, pass to those who will come after us, remembering that where the past was, there also the future will be. I haven't been involved, as some of these ladies have, in doing genealogical research on my family. However, I am trying to share my Polish heritage with my family through traditions for several of the special occasions that we celebrate.
Every year.
Every year.
Mhm.
Święconka at Easter time and Vigilia at Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd just like to share, well, actually, when I was doing some research, I even learned more on these things, but I'd like to share some of the things that I do as well.
Certainly.
So one of the most enduring and beloved Polish traditions is Święconka, or the blessing of the Easter food and baskets, which begins the Easter celebration on Holy Saturday. Years ago, the priest would go from home to home, blessing the Easter baskets in individual homes. And I remember my mom reminiscing about how beautiful her mother, my grandmother, laid the table out for Święconka, and that my grandmother was very proud of being able to celebrate that. And that the priest, too, was very impressed with the layout of the food that my grandmother had done. This is interesting. The following are the foods that are part of the Easter celebration, and each of them symbolizes something. The egg symbolizes new life and Jesus' resurrection. The bread, Jesus as the bread of life or staff of life. Lamb, Jesus, the Lamb of God, or the Paschal Lamb. The butter lamb, which we see here, is the goodness of Christ. Salt is purification, the salt of the earth. Horseradish symbolizes the bitter passion of Christ. Ham, joy and abundance, and we all love ham. Kielbasa, God's favor and generosity. Bacon, God's mercy and generosity. Cheese, moderation in all things, which we should all practice, correct? Sweets, and I know I love sweets, eternal life. Symbolizes eternal life. And the candle, Christ, the light of the world. Today we celebrate Święconka in St. Adalbert's parish and in most Polish parishes in a different way, because we bring the baskets to church rather than having the priests come to our home individually. The baskets are lined usually in white linens and lace and decorated with boxwood evergreens. We place them on tables at the foot of the altar where the priest or deacon will say actually a special prayer over the meats individually, the eggs individually, the cakes, and the bread individually, and then bless them by sprinkling holy water on them. In Poland, this I found interesting. I'm sure it isn't a problem here. In Poland, the size and the contents of a woman's Easter basket. Now, some used wooden bowls and some dresser drawers.
Oh my
You know,
God.
As a basket.
As the basket, bring it.
Interesting.
These are a matter of pride and standing in the community,
Huh.
which I found interesting. And I guess they enjoy going to a Shansunkan church to check out everybody's baskets as well.
To see who had the most abundance, right?
Exactly. Now, we have practiced I have 6 children and grandchildren, and we have practiced right along the bringing of the Easter baskets to church for the blessing. And our grandchildren always enjoyed putting their Easter baskets together for Shansunka and included eggs they colored and, of course, the candy they received from the Easter Bunny, which is an American symbol or custom. One thing I do have to mention, though, when I was going through the website, there was someone, her name was Alex, I remember that. She had done a thing on the Easter baskets, and she said, she named everything she put in, and then she said, I always include the Lindt chocolate bunny for my addiction. She says, Jesus understands. I thought that was cute.
It is.
These are called pisanki, the Polish Easter egg. They're exquisitely decorated Easter eggs and are an old Polish tradition symbolizing the revival of nature and the hope that Christians gain from faith in the resurrection. Pisanki, or Jaja Wielkanocne, which is Easter eggs, are richly ornamented using various techniques. Sometimes the elderly people, I've never tried it, but they boiled onion skins.
My grandmother
Or
did that.
Amber color.
beets
Yeah.
as
Beets,
well
yeah.
to color
Color,
the eggs
yeah.
naturally,
Right.
Mhm.
not the Paz
Right.
coloring that we buy. And also, I guess you can, after they've colored it, they can etch it with a sharp instrument to make another drawing on the egg. The pisanka is derived from the word pisać, which most Polish people know what it means. It means to write. That's for contemporary Polish, but in Old Polish, pisać also meant to paint. So that's where we get the pisanki. Now the butter lamb, which also here is displayed, and as Pat mentioned, at St. Adalbert's, there's a group of us who make them actually for a fundraiser for the Sisters of the Resurrection. The Baranek Wielkanocny is a traditional Polish Easter symbol which symbolizes the sacrifice of the Lamb of God, Jesus Christ. I also have here, and Helen actually lent it to me, it is a butter lamb mold. One that has been sold because it's decorated a little bit, but has, I'm sure, seen its
Can you
service
pick that
over
up?
the years. I
Yeah,
certainly
we
can.
probably have a picture of it anyway.
It's
but
actually a two-part, well, no, I guess this
That's just one
is
part.
one part of it.
that is so interesting.
There's usually, you would put your butter and kind of shape it as well as you could,
Yeah.
and then put the top on it, put it in ice water so that it forms, and then take it out.
I believe the Sisters of Resurrection make these.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Because
Yeah,
I
we do.
bought some
Yeah,
from
we do.
them.
They're made at our
One
church.
year and
Yeah.
kept them in the freezer. And
Yep.
My father repaired them yearly for
Mhm.
Sister Bernadette.
Oh, Sister Bernadette will be on a show that I'm going to be doing in the future with the nuns.
Oh,
So I
Oh,
think
good.
Sister Bernadette will
Uh-huh.
be on.
Oh, that's nice.
All right, the tradition of Shansunka, or blessing of the Easter food, is dear to the heart of every Pole. He is grateful to God for all the gifts of nature and grace, and as a token of his gratitude, he has the food blessed with the hope that when spring comes, the season of the resurrection, he will also be blessed by God's goodness and mercy. Now, Vigilia is also very dear to the hearts of the Poles, a celebration of Christmas Eve. Vigilia is not only the climax, the high point, and main focus of the entire Christmas season, but it is the single most important day of the year for Polish people. It has been said that that is because it combines things Poles cherish most: God, family, and country. God is present in the hay, opłatek, fasting, in the kolendy or carols, and the star symbol, and midnight mass. It is a unique celebration that sets Poles apart from other ethnic groups. Vigilia is the Polish name for Christmas Eve. It means to await, referring to the birth of Jesus. It is a vigil. A lighted candle is placed in the window in the hope that the God-child, in the person of a stranger, would come and grace their table. In fact, there is an old Polish adage that a guest in the home is God in the home. Gość dom, Bóg dom. And I've read that in Poland, the head of the household will even go out into the streets to see if there is someone who would like to share the Vigilia with them, which I found very interesting.
Which is not unusual in our country as an American custom for Thanksgiving in particular.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But on Christmas Eve, my grandmother used to leave a setting free, empty, for a guest.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm going to talk about
Oh,
that next.
sorry.
That's okay. In memory of the Christ child's humble birth, hay is scattered over the table
Yep.
before, and this is the way I do it. I make little bundles of hay with little red ribbons and put them in four corners. And then the white tablecloth is set over, a pure white tablecloth is set over the table. An extra place is set and a chair left empty in memory of ancestors, a departed loved one, or an unseen guest, Jesus. This reminds us that Joseph and Mary sought shelter the night Jesus was born. Now the Vigilia dinner. Feasting begins once the first star, or gwiazda, is sighted, usually by the children. That's their job, to help them stay out of the way while all the preparations are going on, so I read. And as the wise men noted the first star. The celebration begins with the eldest member in the family leading grace and then breaking and sharing the opłatek, or the Christmas wafer, which also I have displayed. Wafers, which are blessed, and they have pictures of different Christmas scenes, nativity scenes on them. And usually the eldest starts breaking the bread with his wife, and then everybody present will do it in the family. And you wish each other good health and happiness for the new year. It can also, which I found interesting, and we don't necessarily do this, be a time for asking for forgiveness for false, either imagined or real. And that is why when Christ forgives us, we should forgive others. And the opłatek is known as the bread of unifying love. In Poland, the opłatek is, I found this interesting, especially the pink one. The pink opłatek would be shared with the domestic animals, because they believe that after midnight, the animals talk on Christmas Eve. Okay, the Vigilia meal is traditionally a meatless meal, with fish being a main dish. It is usually composed of 7, 9, or 11 courses, although I read that 13 could be a course,
Odd number.
12 for the apostle, and 1 for God, or the Lord. Our Vigilia usually consisted of mushroom soup, herring, baked or fried haddock, or scallops, horseradish, a potato casserole, pierogi, babka, poppy seed cake, desserts, and coffee. Usually, no alcohol is served, if you are following customs. Borscht, or beet soup, sauerkraut and peas, mushrooms, and dried fruit compote are also very popular dishes. And there were loads of dishes that, could be introduced. The meal contains a sampling of what the fields, the forests, and the river has to offer, which I never knew before. After supper, Kalendi, or the carols, are sung, a most popular being Dzisiaj Bethlehem, or Today in Bethlehem. Now they say gifts are exchanged, but as we put a big emphasis on gifts on Christmas morning, they open them on Vigilia. And I know we used to do it with our gifts from our aunt and uncle who lived in Virginia. But there's not a big emphasis on gifts in Poland. Now, the crowning of a magnificent evening of family warmth and traditional symbolism is Pasterka, or the Shepherd's Mass at midnight, at which you will share a płatek with your parish family. After midnight, now our own family, after midnight Mass, we would come home, put Jesus into his, I think Shopka is the name of it, is it the manger?
Yep.
And we would sing happy birthday to him. And because we have a stajenka under the tree with a village scene, actually the stajenka my husband made for me when we were first married. And that was our the stable, or that was the celebration at the end of midnight Mass. I do have something on Epiphany, if time allows, or we can end it here.
I
Which
think
would-
this will be fine
Okay.
for our purposes
Absolutely.
today. And I'm sure all of you ladies use some variation of the customs that Joyce talked about today. Maybe not all of them, but certainly a variation.
Right.
Could I just point one more thing out?
Sure.
I had this book here that my son had given me, and it kind of explains the Vigilia Christmas Eve, the Polish Christmas Eve, in my grandchildren's pictures, and pictures for my grandchildren, and a little story about it. So
Well, that's lovely. Thank you so much, Joyce.
You're
You enjoyed that, didn't you?
I very much did.
You may ask and wonder, what is considered traditional Polish clothing? Well, Polish national costume vary by region. They are not worn in daily life, but at folk festivals, folk weddings, religious holidays, harvest festivals, and other special occasions. The costumes may reflect regions and sometimes social or marital status. In their day-to-day lives, though, most people from all areas of Poland wear jeans, t-shirts, business suits, and other styles worn by everyone else all around the countries. Mountaineers, called in Polish górale, from the Tetra region wear folk costumes on a daily basis, but especially the men, since they want to attract tourists and to their business. The mountaineers are also great artists. They carve wonderful things from wood. And we have, for one, the box. This is just a small sample. And the plates, which they do. This is all from the mountain region. And they have all sizes, all colors, all shapes. And this is the krakowianki. But this is the costume that is from the mountain region. Before tourism was developed, many regions, especially in the high mountains, were very poor. Since the climate was so harsh for agriculture, many mountaineers were shepherds, since sheep were the only animals which survived in the climate. This area was high in migrating to the America during the 19th and 20th century. But this helped the region because they were able to help their families that remained in the mountains. The most popular Goodall costume in this region included, and I'll show you this here, it included leather shoes and wool, which was from the sheep, and the leather from the animals. And this is an example, but they also were, you can't see it on that, but their pants and their jackets were embroidered, highly embroidered.
Wow.
But they were all wool and embroidered.
Beautiful.
And then they carried a cane, and if you look at the picture, well, you'll
wanna
see,
hold it?
yeah, this is the cane that they carried, and you can see the leather shoes a little bit easier on this.
And that's made out of.
And this is made out of straw. And this is from Góralskie, from Poland, from the mountain region. And this is the walking stick that they use, and that's called a chupaga. And of course, the woolen pants were called paraszenica. And as I said, they were decorated with and embroidered. The Cracovia costume is often considered to be the national costume of Poland. Krakow has always been the cultural capital of Poland. This is the most copied costume by all Polish dance groups. And this is an example, and I'll explain to you about it. But they had flowered rose skirts. They wore laced boots, but originally they wore pull-on boots. They had white blouses with a large collar, and the blouses were embroidered white or embellished. But the blouse up there, in the eastern part of Krakow, they used color embroidery. And of course, the red coral or the amber they used on the as part of the costume. And of course, the vest, which was highly decorated with beads, embroidery, tassels, buttons, and sequins. And they wore, well, this doll doesn't have it, but they'd have a wreath that was all flowers with ribbons. And the man wore, now this is the bridegroom, but he has the Krakowianka costume, which is the blue coat with the tassels, with the gold coins, and the red and white striped pants, and the hat that has the plume and flowers. Now, you probably, and I had one of these costumes when I was 5 years old. This costume is the one you see mostly in the United States. And the reason that they went to white is because they couldn't get material that had roses on it. And this is the costume that most of our children used. And again, the long sleeve blouse and the vest and the boots.
That is precious. Is that from your home?
No, this is from Joyce's. Joyce did this.
Really?
She made this.
Oh,
Made
that's
it?
beautiful,
I didn't
Joy.
know
But I
that.
was talented.
But
That is lovely.
Well, my whole thing was, though, I couldn't understand as I'm going through and seeing all these different costumes from all these different regions, but there was no white one with ribbons on it. And finally, I came across why. Because I never knew about all the costumes until my children got in a dance group, and we were doing dances from the different regions of Poland, and then we were getting costumes to match those regions. Anyway, let's see. For the bride's wedding, that was special because the bride had a different headdress with flowers and ribbons on it. And the man, of course, wore the white coat. And again, over his Krakowianki outfit. Poland is a nation rich in culture and musical tradition. In fact, Poland has 5 national dances. There are very few countries that even have 1 national dance. No, the polka is not a national dance in Poland. That was also very interesting because everyone thinks polka comes from Poland. Well, it doesn't. And I wonder if anybody knows, but I think I told a
do.
few people.
I do know.
Where?
It's Czechoslovakia.
Not totally.
Yeah, I looked it up on
Name is-
Wikipedia. I did look it up, and it says a Czech peasant dance.
But the name is derived from Czech,
Uh-huh.
and it means Polish woman. Poland means Polish woman.
Mm-hmm.
But the polka is a Central European dance, and in the 19th century, it was started in Bohemia.
Mm.
So there.
Well, I guess
Oh,
Wikipedia
jeez.
didn't know that. What can I say?
Well, and that amazed me. But the polka is still a popular dance in many European countries, the United States, and South America. Polka dances are held throughout the United States on a weekly basis, which I was amazed. I have a stepdaughter in Colorado, and when we were out there, I put the music radio on while we're in the car, and there's Polish music, and I'm like, what? But it is all over.
And you are a Polish dancer, too.
Yes, from the time I was 5 years old. So
Very, very excellent.
Poland's national dances are the Krakowiak, the Mazur, the Polonaise, the Kujawiak, and the Oberek. These dances originated in the Polish countryside and were very popular, and they found their way to the royal court and were even incorporated into the classical works by composers like Chopin, which we had the music of Chopin. And if you go online, if you go into traditional dances from Poland, they have videos of all of these 5 dances, and they are absolutely beautiful and very enlightening. Chopin got his music from these dances, these Polish
Yeah.
dances, which is really, well, I visited Chopin's home in Poland, and it was just wonderful.
Oh, I bet. I'm so glad we have a piece of Chopin on our show today.
Perfect.
Beautiful job that Dan did earlier.
Okay.
Now, our last but not least. We had the later but not least. Now we're doing the last but not least.
Okay, I feel it's almost kind of a downer because I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of Poland and why so many people from Poland emigrated to the United States and other places. First of all, Poland was a nation by the year 1953, a Christian and accepted Christianity at the same time, so it has a very long history. Only problem is the location of Poland. It's in North Central Europe, and so it has Russia to the east, Prussia or Germany to the west, and Austria to the south. And it's almost like a byway or highway between Russia and the rest of the Europe. So it has been under many different types of political administration. There has been a monarchy more than once. It has been ruled by the nobles. It has been a republic at least twice. And it has been a commonwealth, union of commonwealth with Lithuania for a long period of time. And it's because of this physical location that I believe so many of the people who came to this country came, because it was partitioned in at least 3 times, starting in 1791, and 1795 was the third partition between Prussia, or Germany, Russia, and Austria. And they left only a little part of the country for Poland. In fact, Austria got 32% of the population of the country at that time, of Poland. Prussia got 23% of the population, and Russia got 45% of the population. And there was just a small area that was left to be a Polish nation. And although it was partitioned, people did strive to keep the Polish traditions and Polish history and customs and language and religion alive, because it wasn't easy. Because these 3 occupying groups or countries, they differed in the way they treated the Polish who were under their occupation. Sometimes it was a fairly benign administration, but then things would change in Europe or in time, and then they would clamp down and make all sorts of hardships. Russia, after 1837, was deciding to destroy the Polish nationality completely. They were a little bit more liberal before, and also to get rid of the Polish language. Polish universities were closed. Polish was not taught in the schools. There was a hostile attitude towards Polish Catholics, and Poland was a particularly 98% Catholic country. So it was a really hard time. My father came from the Russian partition, and he left Poland in 1914. Not particularly because he wanted to come. It wasn't a dream of his or anything, but he had turned 21 in January of 1914, and already there was all the buzzing about a war to come. And if he had stayed in Poland a month or 2 more, he would have been conscripted into the Russian army. So his parents, who were poor subsistence farmers, very poor. I don't know where they got the money from, because they had to, my father said they not only had to pay for the ship passage from Hamburg, Germany, to the United States, but they had to have bribes for different officials as you left the Polish area and went into the German area, and so on. A large immigrants came from the Prussian area, or German area, in the 1870s, because Bismarck had decided and started his culture conf, and he was against the learning of the Polish language. He was against the Roman Catholic Church, and actually he deported at one point about 30 or 40,000 people. They had forcibly to leave the country, and other people emigrated on their own after that.
So did some of those people come here?
Most
that
of the
time?
people came, yes, they came to
Okay.
the United States. And some of them did go back because policies changed a little, and
Sure.
some went back, but the majority of the people stayed here. In Russian-occupied Poland, they experienced an increasingly difficult situation. My father lived it was on a small farm in a colonia, not near a city, and he only went to school for a few years, and he was taught in Russian. They were not allowed to speak Polish at this time in the schools or in the streets. Polish was spoken in the home, and I believe in the church. And high school students had to pass their exams in Russian, not in Polish. And the only universities that were open from time to time were the ones in Russia, because the Polish ones were closed. In Austria, in the Austrian section of Poland at one time, 52% of the Polish males over 6 years of age were illiterate. They had no schooling, even in their own language, and 59% of the females. In the beginning, the people who lived in the Austrian section of Galicia, it was a more lenient kind of situation. But then the Austrians tightened up, and some of the same kinds of restrictions began to be put into effect there. The first Poles that we know about in the United States, the immigration, dealt back to the Virginia colony in 1608.
Really?
They didn't come here to settle. They were brought over as pitch and tar makers for building ships and so on. But they were there actually 12 years before the Pilgrims
Really?
landed in Massachusetts.
But they got a taste of America at
Yeah,
that time,
and
didn't they?
these were, as I said, they didn't come to settle, but they came to work. And besides these pitch makers in the colony at that time, there were men who made glass, who made soap, and there were glass blowers as well. And at another point, Polish history was very up and down because of wars that they didn't invite but came their way. And at one point in the 1770s, a lot of the nobility were rising up against the occupiers. And at that time, we have two very famous Polish noblemen who came to the United States. One was Kazimierz Pulaski, who came to help the United States, and he was helped in the defense of West Point. And Tadeusz Kościuszko, who was one of the aides to General Washington. Pulaski died here. Kościuszko went back, but then things were still up in the air in Poland, and I believe he left to go to Switzerland. Because of all these problems, I mean, the peasants were kept down, or they were encouraged to fight against the landowners who employed them. The religion was almost not denied, but really discouraged. And there were a lot of economic reasons why they came. A lot of people were very poor. A lot, like my father, the families did not want them drafted into the Russian army, and the same would happen to somebody who lived in the Austrian section, so they left. The first real settlement here in the United States was in Texas. It was called Panna Maria, and I believe it still exists today. I don't know whether it's a showpiece or whatever. And at the same time, and this is in the 1730s, some people settled in Michigan and Minnesota. But the most people from Poland emigrated from Poland between 1870 and the beginning of the World War I in 1914. And there were huge numbers of people who came. Most of the Polish came through Ellis Island, some through Castle Garden, and even some in Baltimore. The immigration agents, they didn't speak Polish, but most likely they didn't speak Italian or other languages either. So it was a very difficult situation for people who were timid. You had to be kind of, if not aggressive, at least in control so that you could answer. And my father besides the health exam, they asked him to count to 10 in English, and he could count in Polish, and he could count he knew a little bit of German, and of course he could count in Russian. And they just asked one or two other questions. And it was at a time in 1914 when they were still welcoming many immigrants who could work in factories and so on.
100 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. In 1882, the United States government passed a law keeping paupers out of the country. You had to have either a certain amount of money, or you had to have people who were sponsoring you or a place to stay. And then the Immigration Act of 1924 restricted immigration to lower levels. But when my father came over, he had a cousin who lived in Greenpoint in Brooklyn, so he stayed with him for a short while. But my father was from a small subsistence farm, and he loved farming, and he worked in the big German and Dutch farms on the Hudson River, and worked his way up the river. And I don't know at which point all the work that was available in Schenectady, in the GE and so on, beckoned him, and he moved to the downtown area of Schenectady, and then worked for the GE the rest of his life. My mother was of Polish background. Her parents both came from Poland, and they were married in 1925. The immigrants were attracted to the U.S. because of economic reasons, religious reasons, and all of the jobs that were available. 90% of the Polish settled in places where at least several Polish people had already settled. They didn't go off on their own. Most immigrants went to industrial and mining areas in the United States. Relatively few went to New England. Almost none went to the South. In 1920, 33% of all coal mine workers in the U.S. were of Polish extraction, and 25% of all blast furnace workers were of Polish abstraction. And many went into the meatpacking industry. Very few Polish people became businessmen because most of these people who came during this migration had very few resources and very little education.
And these were some of the jobs that they did back home, I'm sure.
Yeah, so they didn't they weren't able to do that when they came to this country. I was looking for the totals of the people who came to this country from Poland in certain years, and it was very difficult. Like when I was looking up my father's immigration, I didn't know. I mean, obviously I knew his name. I knew the year he came over with, and then I even knew the ship that he came over on. But they misspell names, or they, for instance, they Russified his name. And also on one document, they put down that he was from Russia. And on another that he was from Poland, and another one they did have Polish Russian. So I think many times when people are looking up the genealogy, and you don't know the exact dates and so on, it's kind of difficult because the names have been changed by people accidentally along the way, and the country, I mean, instead of putting Poland, they might put Russia, or they put Austria, or instead of Lithuanian, they'll put Russian. So you really can't tell. But I was amazed that in 1890, the number of people that they had coming over from Poland was like 333,000.
Wow.
No, I'm saying not coming over. That was the population. The only trouble is, just judging from some of the difficulties, I don't know how many of the people they have listed as Russians entering or Austrians entering are really Polish or from that country. So that was I saw as a difficulty.
As far as the spellings go, Phyllis ran into a lot of that doing her research.
Right, absolutely.
Inaccurate spellings and that.
Right. And it makes it difficult because you're going down, the ship that my father came over on had, I don't know, several hundred in first and second class, but over 1,200 in steerage.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if they misspelled the name so badly, it made it difficult.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
It
I
was
hope we
interesting,
covered
yeah.
everything that you wanted to do.
Yes.
We are at the end of our show here, and I hope the audience enjoyed it. Hope this might inspire you to research your own roots, Early in the show, you got the information on that. If you would repeat your phone number again, Phyllis, in case
Okay.
someone wants to call you for
Right.
more help with that.
My name is Phyllis Budka, Budka, area code 518-377-8734.
And she spearheaded this project. It's a work in progress.
Definitely.
She's done a lot. We hope to get a version of this over to the Schenectady County Historical Society. This is the first of its kind. Tell your friends about us. We are for the people and we are by the people. This is a democratic entity, public access. And I thank you for tuning in today for our show, our Polish heritage, a tree that blossoms. Thank you again.
Thank you.